What's up, everyone? Jason Brown here, the King of Programming, back for another programming review. Today, we're looking at CPT Fit in the Playbook app. This is the first program that came up when I went back into this app. Now, all of these programs in here are programs that you have access to if you subscribe to this app. There aren't a whole lot of things that are worth getting excited for. Now, there's a lot in here. I'm sure I could probably find something that definitely gets the check of approval, but so far it's been pretty abysmal. So I start all these videos off the same way, and I want to give you guys some context as to what I'm looking at so you understand what I am, in fact, looking at. Now, I've had various people chime in. One of the programs that we did of a very well-known CrossFit athlete saying that I didn't watch the review videos that he does of each day of programming. And my response was the same to every single one of them. Unfortunately, a review of what's there does not change the structure of the program. The program is the program. The exercises are the exercises. The fundamentals are the fundamentals. So when I look at programs, I am not watching 10-minute videos. No one's got time to do that. You don't have time to have me watch that. You want to see what the training is. What is the end user absorbing and then actually bringing into the gym and trying to execute? So when I look at these programs, I look at the fundamentals of program design, which are exercise order. Where are the exercises put within that training session? Typically, if I had to break this down in a very simplistic way, it would be big to small. Meaning we start with a big power movement like a power clean. We go into a movement like a heavy squat. We go into some accessory work. And then we typically end maybe with some isolation or some core work. That is a very simplistic view of exercise order. There's certainly a lot more to it, but just so you understand what it is I'm looking at. Now, the next thing we think about is, what are the exercises? Are we selecting the right exercises? There are potentially, I would say, hundreds of thousands of exercises we could lean on, but we know that we don't have the ability to essentially use that many exercises, and that we have to be a little bit more fine-tuned with the exercises we do choose. And of course, there are issues with choosing the wrong exercises. Those are things that I highlight. Now, when we look at the actual structure as far as sets, reps, rest intervals, we look at conditioning. Is there any aerobic conditioning? Is there any anaerobic conditioning? And if so, how are they structured? Are they done in the right way where the intent is something that people can arrive at and be basically guaranteed that they're gonna get what we want them to get from it? Now, with online training, there are a lot of limitations. We don't necessarily know who the end user is. Now, ideally, you would target the ideal client, whoever that is for you, and that's something I know we do with our training, is that we go after the ideal client, and everyone is different. So with that said, if you know who your ideal client is, you can certainly reverse engineer a program and do better in an online setting where it's less individual, but there's a lot of things that can make or break an online training program that's delivered to the masses. And at the core of everything we have the fundamentals. A 10-minute video that someone shoots to tell you what the training is does not change the fundamentals. Unless they're saying, hey, do a different program. Short of that, it doesn't change what's there. So those are things I look at, and those are things that are very, very important. And I wish I could say that I saw better programs, but I don't see that to be the case. I see people missing the mark on fundamentals. I tend to see, kind of as a whole with influencers, is that they do way too much volume. Way too much volume. And I don't know if that's the case with this program, but we're gonna find out, we're gonna look at it, and you guys can see what I see. So obviously, if you know anything about this stuff, some of the stuff should be clear to see. On the other end of the spectrum, when I see good programs, I've reviewed several programs that I've approved in the past, we tend to see more restraint, more coaches that are being more selective with the exercises, and they're giving you an amount of volume that is relative to what they're trying to do in their program and relative to the exercise selection or maybe the conditioning, how it's structured. So a lot of ways to skin the cat here, but what I'm gonna do is try to break this down in a very authentic way, showing you what I see at first glance, and then go from there. And sometimes what I tend to do is give you my 2 cents about what I would do different. Sometimes there are things that we can't really do. Sometimes a program needs to just go in the trash, and we needed to start over and potentially just not use that program. But let's get into it. So CPT Fit, this is the one that just came up. I just saw it, it was on the home screen. I don't know how this app works, whether or not it was like, hey, this program is sponsored or something like that, but this program was the first thing that popped up. And for many of you, you've requested a lot of great programs, but I do want to just kind of be a little bit more random and sometimes just select things and see what we get. We might get a good one. So let's check out what we have here. So this program, so you've got several things to choose from here, and we're going to just choose the first program we see, which is Your 24. It's an 8-week program. There is an intro to it. And so at first glance, what do I see? This program is broken down into a lower body day, an upper body day, and a full body day. So 3 workouts per week, which is probably good that we're going to actually have a shorter review video today, as opposed to the past. We've had a lot of longer ones. I should be able to get through this pretty quickly today. So again, 3 days a week, lower, upper, full body. I like that it's only 3 days per week. I think kind of as a whole, what we see is that people are pressed for time. So when we have programs that are very, very specific with how many days per week, 3, 4, and then obviously beyond that, you have people that obviously have more time to train. That makes it easier for people to self-select the right program for them. So I really do like that aspect of this, that it is specific for someone that's training 3 days per week. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's look at this first day of this program. And what do we have here? I'm actually gonna give you guys, for those of you that criticize me not watching those videos, I'm gonna look a little bit at the just intro of what I see here. And I do see some good information. We have some, it talks about it being an EMOM, which for those of you that don't know is every minute on the minute. But let's take a look at what's here. So we've got an optional warm-up, which again, I think maybe just says that because people might have their own warm-up in mind. Me personally, I'm very specific with warm-ups, but I'm not here to judge the warm-up. We've got essentially a 24-minute EMOM consisting of, again, keep in mind, this is a lower body day. We got a goblet squat, 16 reps. We got a reverse lunge, 16 reps. We got a dumbbell squat jump, 16 reps. We've got a dumbbell or kettlebell swing. It says 16S, which I would assume is seconds, and then 16 lateral dumbbell lunges. So 5 exercises and onslaught of lower body. Okay, it's a lower body day and she's doing it in EMOMs. So if we break this down in just kind of simple terms, we have 24 minutes and each minute is a different exercise. And then it says 30 seconds rest. I'm not sure if that's 30 seconds rest. Either way, there's certainly a little bit confusion here. I'm a coach. I'm very well versed in EMOMs. I'm definitely a little bit confused on how this goes. Maybe it says that in the notes. Okay, I'm going to just say, pretend that I already read the notes and I know exactly what this is. Let's just look at the exercises. So in that 24 minutes, we are doing goblet squats for 16 reps, reverse lunge, jump squat, swings, and lateral lunge. So we got single leg, we've got a squat pattern, we've got a hinge pattern, and then we've got potentially a plyometric, but it's 16 reps, which is a little bit high to produce power for that longer duration, especially after all the work that's been done. So I think that this session in and of itself is not done in a great way, and here's why. What I would do, if I was going to do an EMOM structure in this fashion, I would probably do more anterior posterior. So we would do some goblet squats or single leg and then do some hinging with the kettlebell swing. So we do just 2 movements. And then I would structure other EMOMs thereafter. But I think if we want this to be a better day as a whole, we need to break it down. Lower body exercises don't have the same ability to superset as you would, or even in this case, more of a circuit fashion, don't have the same ability to be done like upper body, where we can really rest a little bit more in terms of key musculature. When we're bench pressing, we can essentially have more rest of the posterior region of the body, our lats, our upper back complex. But even still, there is some carryover. The lats do isometrically support the bench press, so there is a stabilization effect to that. So if you could make the argument that supersets, albeit, can work in many ways, is it the best way? If they're lower body work, it's not the best way, because with a single leg pattern, you're not resting the posterior chain. You are still having an effect in terms of the glute complex, the hamstrings. They don't just work in isolation where we're just working the quadriceps. We do have participation of other musculature. So to try to pair up lower body exercises is harder. So what I would do is I would do more of an anterior, so a squat pattern, and then more of a RDL or a Russian swing or whatever you want to do for posterior region, glute hip thrust, and I would pair them that way. But I think as a whole, if you just structure this day where you did a squat, a single leg, a hinge, and maybe another isolation exercise for either the direct glute work and then a core exercise, that would be a much better way to do this. This is very high volume for just about anyone, and it is going to crush your lower body, delayed onset muscle soreness like a MFer. So just take that for what it's worth. I think that this is A lot of things wrong with this session, but let's move on so we don't beat a dead horse here. So we're gonna go to day number 2, if you guys remember, is an upper body day, and it looks like it's done in the same way where we're doing another EMOM. And in this case, we've got another 24-minute EMOM with alternating snatches, squat curls, pull-ups, high plank dumbbell pull through, and then dumbbell single arm row, and you're resting 60 seconds at the end of each round. You're doing all of these for 40 seconds each. It's an upper body day, but you definitely got some lower body contribution here. You got some squat curls. You know, alternating snatch, if you're taking it from the floor, there's obviously a hinge component to that. So there is some carryover from what we did on day 1 to day 2. Again, I have the same feedback for this day. I would, if you're gonna do an upper body day, there are much better ways to do it. This is not a good way to do it because you're essentially telling someone to be training in a very fatigued state. There's not going to be a whole lot of mechanical tension, and really kind of people going through the motions being very sore from the previous day. So I think that this leaves a lot to be desired. Again, if I was to restructure this, I would get rid of the dumbbell snatches. I think that's a full body movement, to be honest. Dumbbell squat curls, I would not use. I would eliminate the squat pattern with that. But what I would do is I would do pull-ups, and there's no pressing, which is, maybe she's doing that on the next day. She's doing more of that. But for this to be an upper body day, I would do a press pattern. I would do an upper pull pattern. And I would likely do 2 presses, 2 pulls, and then some type of core movement. And that would be it. I would do, maybe you could do supersets. So maybe push, pull. So we dumbbell press, and then we do some pull-ups, and then we do another press variation, and we do a row pattern, and then we end with some core work. People will get much better results from what I just mentioned. That's not my opinion. That's fact. People are going to go through this. They're going to go through the motions. They're not going to be using any type of appreciable load. There's a lot of limitations to the way that this is structured. I don't like it. I think it's kind of, again, just what I tend to see, just a pile of steamy shit, and much better ways to do this stuff. All right. So, but I will say people that do this are probably going to really like it because they're going to get a burn. They're going to sweat. They're going to be sore. So this stuff is disguised, like it's disguised as programming that's good, but it's not good. People think that programming that's good makes you sweat, makes you sore. Well, you guess what? If you think that, you're wrong. Programming that gets you results is what's good. Programming that's concise is good. Programming that allows you to use the right loading across multiple patterns is good. Using enough rest between sets so you can use heavier loads is good. And I'll end there, but there's a lot of things that are good. Unfortunately, these 2 days are not it. Okay, so our full body day, let's check it out. Now, I've talked about full body in the past, and to be a full body day, we need a hinge pattern, we need a lower body pattern, and we need an upper pull and an upper press. Now, people will make the argument that you only need a lower body pattern. A deadlift, a trap bar deadlift could be essentially hinge and squat. It's kind of a hybrid of the two, whereas you have a conventional deadlift is going to certainly be more hip hinge. Now, I think that having all 4 of those is a great way to go, but for those of you that are full body purists and say like, hey, I only need a lower body, I wouldn't argue with that. So let's just look at what's here, and if you know what, it checks the boxes and she's got 1 lower and then upper push and upper pull, I would say good stuff. Okay, so how this is set up is very similar. Another this is an AMRAP. We had EMOMs. We've got more biceps curls. We've actually got some pressing, kickbacks, dumbbell front and lateral raise, bent over reverse flies. That's our first AMRAP, so all upper body. Our next AMRAP is dumbbell kettlebell squats, more jump squats, more reverse lunges, step ups, and then bench jumps. So this day sucks. You want a full body day? Let's do upper lower in the same. If you're gonna do an EMOM or an AMRAP or something that has a metabolic feel to it, do upper lower patterns in that. Don't try to separate them because again, you still have the same problems that you had on those other days where you're trying to do all of these movements back to back without rest, and you have fatigue that exists. When you do exercise and you do a lot of lower body exercise, you have a lot of fatigue that's going to exist. That's going to take away from the loading you can use. It's also going to kind of make the session feel like more of a grind when it doesn't have to be. To make this a great full body session, I would just erase this crap that's here. I would do 1 squat pattern or single leg. I would do 1 hinge pattern. Okay, and based on what we've done in this program, there's not been a whole lot as far as hinging. I think a glute hip thrust, some type of hip thrust variation is a good fit for what's in here. I would do 1 press variation and then 1 upper pull. and then a core movement. Again, if you want to make this more metabolic, you want to have some conditioning element to it, you can certainly do that. You could use a circuit. A circuit is a great way to make full body work not only fun, but it also adds an element of work capacity, GPP, to it, because you have to be able to go through multiple exercises, but it also allows you to rest. So think about this, guys. If you do a squat pattern as movement number 1, so that's 1A, and then 1B, let's say, is a upper pull pattern, so say a pull-up. And then 1C, we say, is an upper press pattern, so a bench press, close grip bench press. And then our 1D movement is that hip thrust. So the hip thrust can actually potentiate our squat or single leg pattern, because we have obviously some activation of the glute complex and some things that will help. If you were doing a heavy squat, as let's say it's a heavy front squat, and your last pattern is a hip thrust, then those two can actually work together and synergize pretty well. That's a good way to do it. That's a way that I love structuring full body work. And for this crowd, it looks like they're probably gonna like that feel. So with that said, I think that this program, if it's geared towards a crowd that likes CrossFit-y workouts, I would do full body circuits across the week. There's gonna be less soreness, far less soreness. You can do a lot with a little. And I feel like I'm beating a dead horse. I say this on every freaking video. You can do a lot with a little. You don't need to do 1 million exercises. You can do 4 to 5 exercises a day. You can train the core, anti-rotation, anti-extension, anti-lateral flexion. There's a 3-day-a-week program, guys. Give you the blueprint on it. I've got tons of content on this. This is crap. This program is rejected.
Best program available on the internet today.
I think it's very difficult to find a trainer like Jason that...
Since joining Everyday Heroes, I feel like I've stopped working out and actually started training.